This is Women Driving the Industry with Shyann Malone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shyann Malone. Welcome to Women Driving the Industry. This is a show about showcasing the inspiring stories of women in the automotive industry, where we'll go behind the scenes and dig beyond their day-to-day in the industry. On today's episode, we turn our focus to Lovering Auto Group's president and CEO, Vanessa Delegas, a second-generation woman-led organization. Lovering Auto Group is based in New Hampshire. It has a rich legacy of recruiting women into the organization. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you, Shyann. Thanks for having me today.
Glad to have you. So tell us about your background and how you got into the retail automotive industry.
Sure. So I am a second generation dealer. I did not start my career in automotive. I consider myself lucky in the sense that I didn't have any pressure to get into the business from my parents. They really, they encouraged us in high school to work for them if we wanted to, but there was no pressure. I chose not to in high school, and I worked in a restaurant, actually. I wanted to kind of pave my own path. And I started my career I went to Babson College, graduated back in 2010, and I started my career in advertising in New York City and did that for about a couple years and started to have more appreciation for the family business, having been a recent graduate and working and doing everything on my own. And timing worked out really well. I really wanted to get back to New England and get back to be closer to my family. And my parents had a vacant role as a marketing manager for a couple of years that they tried to fill on their own. And running a business and trying to wear multiple hats it can be challenging. And so it worked out in the sense that I was ready to come home and be closer back into the Boston area. And they had a need for a role that met my skill set.
Isn't it funny how that works? Like a lot of your life, you're like not, rebellious and don't want to do what your parents are doing. You don't want to follow in their footsteps. And then it comes full circle and you bring it back home, which I feel like that's part of it, right? You got to learn where you're at and what you're feeling and where you want to grow for sure.
Yeah, so true. So I started working here full time in 2012. So I've been here a little bit over 12 years now, I think this is the math.
And then tell us how you got to the role you're in now.
Yeah, so I think my path was a little non-traditional in the sense of I did spend time in every department as much as I was able to. Because I did have a full-time job and I wasn't able to fill my seat as the marketing manager while also gaining exposure into every department. So it would have been nice to to spend my time and be a salesperson for a year and then work in parts for a year, which I didn't do. So I ended up, I was a one-man show in marketing doing everything, but we are a smaller group where, we're two small stores and a medium-sized Volvo store. So I was able to build a team under me of a couple people, and then that allowed me to go through the NADA Academy back in 2013. And I spent time, especially that year and then beyond at that point in every department, which allowed me to gain exposure to each department. And then ultimately I moved into an operations manager role where I spent more time, between different stores. I would manage the sales and service departments and work with the department heads at one store, and then moved on to another store. And then I think it was 2018 where I was promoted to CEO.
And do you think, having a little bit of variety in your background helps you in your role today as CEO?
Oh, definitely. I'm really glad that my parents encouraged all of my siblings. There's four of us, and now three of us work in the business, but they encouraged all of us and said, if you decide you want to get into the family business, that's great, but we really think there's value for you working somewhere else for at least 2 years, which everyone except I think my little brother maybe only did a year, but we all did that. Yeah. And there's definitely value because you just, I wouldn't have had the same perspective working with staff. I don't think I would have gained the same respect from our employees too, as I moved up in the organization, if I didn't have a different perspective. And this was the only place I had ever worked.
And talk to me a little bit about working with family, right? Your mom, dad, your parents, your siblings, and your husband as well. What's that balance like?
Well, overall, we all work really well together. So my I'm a second generation Volvo dealer. My grandfather was how we all my parents got into the car business. So he had a Volvo Toyota store. He had a bunch of different brands over the years, but that's ultimately what he ended up with in the same market that we're in right now in New Hampshire and southern New Hampshire. And my dad started working for him in the 80s. And that family business was run, let's just say, very differently than mine. And my parents really learned a lot about family and business and priorities through that experience and decided to ultimately run their family business a very different way. So we really prioritize the family relationships. That is the most important thing for our family. We do have a business to run, and I think we do a really good job making sure that family members are in the role where they can thrive and that matches their skill set. And that can be hard. There's been definitely some tough conversations amongst all of us over the years, but ultimately, between my siblings and my parents, we really do work really well together. 95% of the time, let's say.
A little 5% there hanging. It's not every day that you see a ton of women in the industry. Obviously, you and your stature, right, at your level as in the C-suites. Talk to us about what kind of change that you've seen over the years, over the decade plus that you've been in the industry, and what more needs to be done to attract more women in the industry.
Yeah, I think I'll just say, as an organization, we are big proponents of always hiring the best candidate. Yes, I want a diverse staff. I want, people who have families, people who are of all ages, all backgrounds. And I think because we have those values, we naturally have a diverse staff, and we attract those people. So it's not like we wouldn't have two candidates that we're looking for the same role and say, let's push the female more. We want more females because we feel that there is value in just having a diverse pool or a diverse team. But I think it's a natural progression that when you have more women in leadership roles, it attracts more women. And then when you brand your company that way, and we're very involved in female organizations throughout the state that are not industry specific, then your customers know you as a female-led organization. It becomes part of you have more brand awareness around your company and what you stand for and who you are. So I think it's just been a natural progression, at least in our company, that we have a lot of women, and it's in every department. It's service advisors, GSMs, finance managers. I mean, you name it. There's representation there, and it's not a forced thing. It's a natural thing.
For women out there who, want to get into the industry but aren't sure how to, what advice do you give to them?
I think it can be really hard. We just had our first ever female salesperson. She just had her first baby, and she just started last week back again after taking 12 weeks off. And, you don't see that very often because I think as women, it can be really hard working retail hours, raising a family, right? And also just your identity changes, right? I'm sure you can relate, even having 3 children, right? You might still be who you are inside, but your priorities change sometimes. And how do you marry all those things together and go through different seasons of life and make adjustments? So I think advice I would give a female in automotive is just, you have to find an organization that's the right fit for you, that matches also the values that you care about. It's not just about money, right? Yeah, I think that's probably the best advice I could give is really just, if it can be such a great career, and there's so many different opportunities, and you don't have to have the flashy degree to work in this industry, which is amazing. There's so much opportunity. I think you have to find the right organization with the right values that's going to appreciate having women in automotive and how important that is for the organization.
And Vanessa, you are a mother of three yourself, right? Six, four, and two. So small kids. How are you making it work? Juggling it all and a whole husband, right?
Yeah, right. He's a big part of that. I think there was definitely a point in my career before I had kids. I had my first child in 2017, where I was questioning if I was going to be able to do it. And I had great mentors who I talked with a lot about how they were able to lead an organization in this industry, and even outside of automotive. Just I love meeting other female leaders who are able to, have a thriving business, and are able to have a wholesome life for their, provide not financially, but I mean emotionally for your children, and help them become a productive part of society, who are just like wholesome people. So I think for us, it's a lot of, you have to, I'm very much a planner, and I'm sure you can relate. You have to have your ducks in a row. You have to have a great support system, whether it be family or childcare that's reliable. And you have to also ebb and flow with the seasons. I can say my life today is very different than it was a year ago, just given the ages of my kids and what they need. It changes, but I think it's being flexible, and also just understanding and constantly reflecting on what's important to you, because that may change, from month to month sometimes. Not the overarching what's important to you, but sometimes, I have to spend, a day or two at home, and I have to work from home, and I have to adjust my schedule because something's going on with a kid, and they need a mom, not a nanny there for them. So, sometimes it changes depending on the season. It's not always just one size fits all. And I'll, that's another thing I've learned with working with different mentors. And I just love, even if it's just reading books about successful female business owners, is one thing, there isn't one size fits all for everyone when it comes to, raising a family, running a business. I think it's understanding who you are and what's important to you, and how do you surround yourself with the people that are going to help support you and your family, and what's important to you.
You mentioned it. The mindset you had as far as your career prior to kids, right? And now you have three. How has it changed? And are you okay with that?
Yeah, it's what motivates me and who I am hasn't changed, in terms of I believe every day I try to wake up and I just try to do the best at everything that I can do, whether it's my interaction with a barista at a coffee shop, and how I treat that person, and how I talk, how I hold myself, and how I carry myself, and how I make other people feel. That hasn't changed. It's just um it's how and why I'm doing it. There's just a different perspective when you have children, and um it's about, you really do value relationships, I think, more for me. I think it's especially with my children, right? And even in terms of how I parent and how I run my company, there's so many similarities. My husband and I talk about that a lot. We'll talk about something going on with a child, and we'll say, we wouldn't talk to an employee this way. Why would we talk to our child this way, right? How does that make them feel? So there's a lot. It changes in terms of, or it has changed for me in terms of just why I'm doing what I'm doing.
You mentioned mentorship. How important is having a mentor?
Very, I think it's very important. Just having relationships, whether it be, and it doesn't just have to be business, it can be outside of business, like someone who helps you with your mindset, or fitness, or anything that's going to help you show up in the best way that you can, in the best version of yourself. I have mentors in all of those areas that I admire, and that help. You surround yourself with those people. And I think if I didn't have those people, um, just life would look very different. And I have great, not just female mentors in automotive, male mentors, Volvo dealers who I've looked up to, have known me since I was a child, and we can relate a lot in terms of family business. We understand each other's families and the dynamics, that exist in their business, that exist in ours, and how we navigate certain things. It's incredible to have mentors and excuse me, those relationships I value so much.
Why is that? Why is it so important for you personally?
Um, well, I think you are a reflection of I hate I hate the term your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
But in some ways it's very true. You know, who are we as humans without connection to other people, right?
Mhm.
That's one of the most important things. It's not just about driving, profit and growing like that. That's not going to bring joy. It's how do you impact other people's lives and how do you help other people and how do they, how does that whole thing work? And for me, it's family, it's my friends, it's my children, it's anyone that I am connected with. I try to bring the best version of myself every day so I can impact people's lives. And I love being around people who are the same way. They make me better. They elevate me.
Are you a mentor to anyone yourself?
Yeah, I think so. Not that I can, or I would probably share here, but yes.
That's awesome. And if you don't mind me asking, we talked about, being driven and having obviously a change of mindset as you become older. What are some of the challenges that you feel like you faced in this male dominated industry and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I I can't remember specific. There wasn't, I would say, um, a monumental conversation or event that impacted me and made me have this aha moment. But I do remember there being a lot of little moments because you remember how you feel, right, in those scenarios. And I just remember feeling that I cared way too much about other people and what they thought, whether it be people that were older than me, men, you know, employees at the manufacturer, whatever it might be. It can feel overwhelming to be in a room of people and who are more experienced than you, who are older than you. But I think as I've gotten older, I've cared less about what people think because I think the way that you conduct yourself as a human and you treat other people speaks for itself. And so that's just more so what I focused on is that I just try to always treat people with respect and let the performance of my organization speak for itself and the team that I've built because that's probably what I'm most proud of is when I exit my office is I get to work with a team of people who have very similar values that I do and for me that was a several year effort to build the organization, to change the culture, to recruit people and my husband and I we're just so extremely proud of that. And I would say that's probably the most motivating thing for me.
What's your leadership style?
I would say I have been in organizations and I've also reflected on this with my parents in terms of how we run the company a little bit differently than they do. I admire the Liza Borges, of the world. I don't know if you know Liza Carter Meyer's organization, automotive group. She was one of my mentors early on, and I look at her and I say, she has 1,000 employees. She runs, I think, I'm not sure what her rooftop count is up to, but it's high. And any company like that doesn't get there through micromanaging their people. They get there is a recipe and it's tweaked a little bit differently at every organization, but it starts with the people that you hire. So for me, I think I'm getting off track here. What was your question?
Your leadership style. You said it was different than your parents. So, yeah.
My parents and I have had a lot of honest conversations because we have generally between generations had a little bit different of leadership styles. They really like to have their hands in as much of the business as possible. We do that in a different way because I believe if I communicate clearly with my team and we set expectations and we have really good processes, I have to let them fail. I cannot have my hand in every part of the business. Neither can my husband if we want to grow. And any company can't do that. You can't manage a company that way and scale it up. So we're still at a size where we can do that, but we're doing it less and less because we have to let our people succeed and to fail in order to learn.
When it comes to your career or even personally, Vanessa, what's your biggest fear?
Biggest fear, that's a great question. I think a lot of dealers are still concerned about EVs and just the what direction that's going in terms of how it's going to affect our business models. I think there's a lot that we have control over as car dealers, but there's a lot that we don't. And um, it's still it's more challenging than it was during COVID to be a car dealer. You have to really be dialed in on everything right now. And I think we'll see as an industry how electric cars and even hybrids and just that whole dynamic and how that transforms our business into the future.
During your career, and we talked about it being a male dominant industry, any period of time or even now, do you consider yourself having to continually prove yourself?
I think you always have to. I don't think um, because people change, right? And the manufacturer, it's a corporation, right? Volvo, it's not the same people in the same seats. There's a lot of changes that happen in an organization. Um, and I think no matter what, sometimes people have preconceived judgments of women, of people who are younger, and I think you you always have to, you can't lower your standards. You always have to still conduct yourself in a way and prove yourself and your worth. It's not like it just stops one day. You achieve X status and then all of a sudden, okay, I'm good now. Like life doesn't work that way.
And anything you do outside of work that helps you be a better person at work?
Yes, I wake up very early. I do. I really do believe in morning routines, and I make sure that I wake up with enough time to be able to set my mind straight for the day, and that usually includes writing and reading, having some time with my husband, and not I don't always have to exercise in the morning, but I at least need some time to plan my day and get my mindset right for the rest of the day.
What time do you get up?
Usually, I'm out of bed by 5:15 most days,
Okay.
but some days I'll wake up at 4 a.m. if I went to bed at 9 and I'm rested after 7 hours, but I always get up by 5:15.
Do you ever feel, and I already know the answer, like you're pulled in several different directions?
At work or
And just in general, work and personal life.
oh yeah. But honestly, in some ways, that's what makes this industry so fun. In my first job, I was an assistant account executive. I did the same report every Tuesday with the same meeting. I like change. I know that sounds kind of weird to some people, but um, getting pulled in different directions, there's a bit of an adrenaline rush for me with
Sure.
that. But I do like structure like most people. I always have to have my time in the morning. There's things that I need, but yes, getting pulled in many directions is just it's also the nature of retail. When you walk in, you can't plan everything that's going to happen throughout the day. There's going to be things that end up on your desk that you just have to deal with and roll with it.
Talk about some of your proudest moments in life.
Proudest moments. I think it was a big deal when I actually went to my parents and I said, put me in charge. I think it's time. And that was tough to do because I have a brother who is 11 years older than me in automotive in my organization with 11 years more experience than myself. But I felt like for the family, and it was time for us to have a change and pass over to the next generation. And also our company, I had a 5-month old at the time, and for me to, I think, have her come back into the organization and realize that if I was going to keep doing this, I wanted to make this organization the best that it could be, and just to continue to make a lot of changes to do that. In terms of changing our culture, how we hire, who we hire, really raising our standards. So that was a proud moment. My parents actually doing that, because there really was no plan at the time, in terms of how and when we were going to, I guess, move on to the next generation from a leadership standpoint. So that, and then, and not necessarily a moment, but I'm really enjoying what I do right now. It's definitely, it's, you have to be on your toes. There's, floor plan costs are higher. Advertising is expensive. People are expensive. So expenses are going up, and it's definitely a normalized environment. There's no more, kind of business coming to you. You really have to be on your game. And I'm really proud of our team and the people that we have working for us right now. I'm excited to come to work every day, despite the craziness of home life.
Yes, I bet. It's kind of an escape, right? I always say the real work is when I get home. Yes, yes. What do you attribute to your success, Vanessa?
In many ways, my parents. My parents, I never thought that there was a ceiling growing up. They, recently my daughter said to me, I want to be 4 things when I grow up. I want to be, one of those included being a mom. One did include working in the car business. And then there were 2 other things. And, she's 6. And I don't want to say to her, oh, that's great, Addie, but you're not going to be able to be 4, I want her to think that she can do whatever she wants to do. And my parents, because I saw my mom stay home with me and my younger brother for until I was 10. And then she really, when she got back into the business and my parents bought their first store, she was working a lot of hours. So I just never thought that I had to choose in terms of I have to be home, I have to do it certain things a certain way. And I think that was the biggest blessing as a woman, to just think that if you want something, you can do it. And that's how I was raised. And I think that for me, that was the biggest blessing my parents gave me as a woman.
What advice would you give someone like that, like maybe even in your mom's position, right, where they're getting back into the industry, or maybe even in the industry but wanting to level up?
I would say just keep doing what you're doing, and like I said earlier, find the right company with the right values, with leadership that you want to be around and that you admire. As best you can when you're interviewing for a company, or if you're going back to a job that you were at before, and ask for just because a lot of times we think that we're not doing enough. We're not enough. We're not doing enough at home. We're not doing enough at work. But a lot of people feel that way, and that's not just you. And I think as long as you're doing your best every day, don't be scared to ask for the promotion or to try something because you feel like you're not going to make it. You're not going to be able to do it, or you're not successful enough, or you don't have the resume that this other person has. Just, you got to try, and you got to ask, and you just show up and do your best every day, even if you feel like you're failing.
For the women who are watching, Vanessa, any final thoughts for them?
No, I think that's it.
Well, thanks so much for your time today. You were wonderful. I definitely appreciate your insight. And it's not every day that we get to sit down with a female CEO and mom and all the wife and all the things, daughter. You wear a lot of hats. And it seems like
thank you. It's fun to be able to articulate a lot of, what I internalize on a daily basis, and hopefully helped someone somewhere.
It's certainly inspirational. Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for watching Women Driving the Industry.
Thanks for watching Women Driving the Industry with Shyann Malone.